So, in this video, I am going to tell you about the three laws of motion, Newton's three law of motion. So, you know that these three law of motion, which was proposed by the Newton, is used in our daily life and in even as a single work which we do in our day-to-day life. So, it is very important to know about these three laws. If I talk about the first law of the Newton, the first law of the Newton says that an object is either remains at the rest or in the continuous uniform motion until unless the external force is applied on it. So if I give example of for this first law of motion, there is a ball which is in the rest motion, and if a boy kicked that ball and if the boy that kicked that ball in the north direction, that ball started moving to the north direction. So that ball is not moving towards the north direction by itself. It moves when a boy applies an external force to that ball. Then that ball move to the north direction. And if at the other side, one boy who stopped the ball, and when he stopped the ball comes again in the rest motion. Means when the ball is in the uniform motion, the boy apply the force of his leg to stop the ball, and after that ball is come into the rest motion. So it is very simple to understand that an object will be remain in the rest or in the continuous motion, uniform continuous motion, if until and unless an external force is applied on it. And this is all about the first law of motion, and this law is a very used law in our day-to-day life. Everyone everyone should know about this law, and we use this law in our day-to-day life. And if I give an example, when you playing a football, when playing a cricket, this first law is applied in all that places. And now if I talk about the second law of motion, so many people have can't able to understand the second law of motion because it is very typical. But once you understand that, it is a very interesting law. If I talk about the statement of the second law of the motion is that then the force you apply on the object is equal to the mass of that object, or you can say the acceleration. So in this picture you can understand this law better. A man is pulling a ball of almost 400 kilo, and he has to apply more force as compared to when he's pulling a ball of 40 kg. So in this picture you can see that when he's pulling a bigger ball, heavier ball, he have to apply more force, and when he pulling the lighter ball, he have to apply a very light force. So your applying force is only depend upon the weight and the mass of the object. And if the object is very heavy, you have to apply more force, and if the object is very light, you didn't have to move force, you have to only apply lighter force. Like if you picking up your notebook is very light, so you can pick up your notebook with one hand. If you have to move an almirah, or you can say the sofa, you have to apply more force because these things are heavy than as compared to a notebook. And now if I talk about the third law of motion, the third law of motion is a very common law, and everybody thinks that it's the very easy to learn, and it is really very easy to learn. And this law says that every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. So if I give an example, the best example of this law this law is that when you using an gun, when you fire a bullet from that gun, the gun is pull your hand towards you, because a gun applies the force on that bullet, and that bullet also applies the some force on that gun. So your hand pull behind after shooting a shot on. And this is the best example. And if I give then other example of the third law of motion is that then when you walking on the floor, your foot applies some force on the floor, and that at that same time that floor is also applies some force on your foot. and this is the best example of the third law of motion. So this is all about the three laws of motion, and it is very important to know about these laws because this law used in our day-to-day life in our every single work. So if you found this video informative, so like this video, subscribe my channel because I upload one video daily, and I always try to give you some information about the very general things. So thank you.